Okay, so everyday life. Does anyone have a guess at what they think that image is? Oh, you're close. Theatre. Yeah, very good.
Got that wall of big bricks.
Yeah. Actually, maybe it is the amphitheatre. You might be right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got grass where the wooden seats were.
So that, if you look at the top of your worksheet there, what do you think that would fall under?
Leisure.
Leisure activities. Very good. Okay, so, and we'll get to that later. So, yes, it is on. So first part of the syllabus on this one is housing. And this is an example of inside a house, but the key features which we're going to be identifying on, yeah, that is the atrium, exactly right in the middle of the atrium. Okay, and then we're looking at impluviums, where water collects at the bottom there, compluviums up top, which sends the water down, and important entrance halls too. So, there's a large body of evidence for housing of various types in Pompeii and Herculaneum in the 1st century AD. There were extensive villas that were designed for hospitality and displaying significant wealth, but there were also private urban homes known as domus. So that's the Latin, D-O-M-U-S, which were categorized by really specific features such as atriums, tablinums, and peristyles, which we're going to go through in a moment. And in addition to that, there were other residences, which were workshop residences, as well as housing above shops. And so that's where the people that were living above shops, okay, would have less space, unlikely to have a kitchen. So they would be, where would they be eating? Thermopolia, very good. Okay, ancient styles of what? Fast food, right? Yeah, nice. All right. So, you've got that on your sheet. These are just some key features of a domus, a private urban home. And yes, the really, really big villas would have these, but they'd have sometimes more than one. Like a private urban home would have one atrium, okay? A villa could have 3. Okay, so just showing the size of it. So these are the key features of a Roman house. Okay, otherwise in Latin, a domus. So the atriums were essentially the central point of a house. But in the earlier homes, the atria actually had no opening in the roof and were the center of domestic activity, focused on a hearth, or a hearth or a hearth, the fireplace. The name atrium is actually believed to come from ater, meaning dark black, because of the smoke blackened walls from the fire. So the atria had a roof over the top, and that developed into what we now know as the atrium, which has a compluvium, which is the opening in the roof, and an impluvium, which is a shallow pool that collects rainwater from the roof. And you can imagine, once that's full of rainwater, it would actually be quite beautiful, like that water feature, the sound, and have water in that space. And recent excavation has revealed that the atrium served multiple purposes, such as to receive visitors, for a place for a family shrine, images of a family, a storage area, and a place for domestic duties. So if you look at the images you've got there on that sheet, and you can see the atrium, a lot of stuff would have been happening there. Sorry, okay to move on or not yet? Good. Yep. The next feature is the tablinia. Okay, it's plural, or the tablinium. Okay, which is the singular. And so if you look at the image here, the house of the wooden partition in Herculaneum, great example to use. This area at the front here is the atrium. You can see here's the impluvium that would collect water. And then over here is the tablinium, which is where, and this one's known as the house of the wooden partition because it has the wooden partitions blocking it off from the atrium.
Where's the
Tablinium is behind those wooden partitions. There's that space there. Okay? And so the tablinium was where the owner of the home conducted daily business and where the family and commercial documents were held. In some homes, they believe that the father, the patriarch of the family, would sometimes have a chair there and would sit there with the partitions opened, and he could sit there and watch the activities of the atrium. The tablinum was open to the atrium and was usually the most richly decorated space in the house. Even in that image, you can see the walls. All of it looks beautiful, but you can see how beautifully decorated the walls are of that tablinum. In some homes, it was also used as a dining room, a study, and even a bedroom for the master, and could be closed off with curtains or wooden partitions for privacy. And look at just the height of the ceilings there. Like, this is a very wealthy home.
They have glass.
Yeah.
Did you say height of ceiling?
Yeah, look at the height. Yeah, it's huge. Huge home, yeah. My question being there is the water falling from the compluvium. Makes sense with the tiling on the floors, but how much splashback from the impluvium is happening there? How big's that fall? Yeah.
You could break a bone falling from that.
Yeah. And just the floor being wet all the time. Yeah.
I'd probably slip over.
Yeah. Then the other one we have, and this one is actually a really cool architectural feature, is the peristyle. And what peristyle is it's a colonnaded portico, or a roof supported by columns, usually overlooking a garden. And this one here on the left is the renovated peristyle of the House of Veti in Pompeii.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, it looks pretty fresh since after the volcano. The peristyle in the middle usually held the kitchen garden, the hortus. You think where the term horticulture comes from, where vegetables and fruits were usually cultivated, and even wine and oil was produced for the family. The peristyle was a great architectural feature because it was an effective way to expand the house and bring more light into it, as well as to provide a cool place. So it would bring light, fresh air, but also had greenery to keep the house cool. And if you look at those images on your sheet there, you'll be able to start to notice where the peristyle usually is in the house.
You made me spell a mistake.
Yes, I did. Was it the was to the way? Yeah. So, on your sheet, this is where I'm going to try and use a stylus, so bear with me. Let's see if this works while recording. What we're going to do, there's already some features there, but we're going to go back between that key features. We're not going to do all of them. Okay? We're going to identify some of those key features on a floor plan, a sort of general floor plan of a Pompeian home, urban home. So, if you bear with me, I've got to exit out of this. Okay. So, if we think about it, if we look at one of the key features there, the vestibulum on the key features there, can anyone identify that? What's the vestibulum if you look at the key features table? It is the entrance hall. Okay, good. All right, let's jot that down. Vestibulum. Awesome. Where's the atrium? Right in the middle. Okay. You can circle that, underline it, whatever you need to do. Can anyone identify the term tablinum or tablinum? Yeah, exactly right. So just if you walk through so think about it, if you walk through the entrance, the vestibulum, you'd be looking straight into the atrium. A little bit. And then you would still be able to see into the tablinum as well, right? So it's all about flow. And then you can see then that backs into the peristyle. So from this tablinum, you've got natural light coming from behind in the peristyle over here. Okay, all the way through. And or you get natural light from the atrium. Okay, and can we just do a line from the atrium and we can identify that that's where the compluvium and the impluvium would be. I know it's only been like 5 seconds, but can anyone tell me the difference? What's the compluvium?
Isn't that the top one?
Yep, it's the top one, so it's the opening in the roof. And the impluvium is
Where the water goes.
yeah, where the water collects in the pool. Now, the one thing I want us to add here is, if you look at your key features, is the lorarium. What is the lorarium? family shrine. Now that is usually, if we look at the purpose of an atrium, sometimes it is for family shrine worship. So it could generally, the lorarium would be either on show in the atrium or in a room just off the atrium. Does that make sense? So it could, if you even needed a line from it, in the atrium or in a room near the atrium. Awesome. So you think someone, if someone owning this home would be pretty wealthy? Yeah, they'd have to be, right? I can see how many rooms they've got. Big open space. But as you can see, the shop still being at the front, this is in a still pretty densely populated area. That's been a while since I've used a stylus, so I'm actually... All right. Did we get that down? Awesome. So what's really interesting is that from an architectural perspective, I don't know if you're interested in this in modern architecture, they're trying to bring back sometimes modern styles of atriums in homes if they have the space for it. Or they do like a modern style called a light well, which is actually the glass room in the middle of a building, so they get light into rooms they can't get light into. So there you go.
They want to be Pompeii so bad.
They want to be Pompeii, exactly right. Except for the volcano part. Yeah.
Yeah, we probably avoid that.
Yeah. So that is a digital recreation. You can see here the entrance straight into the atrium. Okay. Tablinum being around here. Dining room here. We got the peristyle up here. Okay. And another example too. That one's probably a bit of a clearer one. You can see the flow from the entrance, vestibulum, atrium, tablinum, and then peristyle. Does that kind of see how you see the flow there? Yep. Here's some examples. So when we talked about the three kind of styles of housing, we got the extensive villas, we got the urban homes like the domus, and then we have like the shops above housing above shops. That's the Villa of Mysteries outside Pompeii. So the extensive villas were not inside Pompeii, they were on the outskirts. And this is the digital reconstruction of the Villa of Pompeii and Herculaneum, which was massive. Look at this, look down here. They've almost got like the infinity pool overlooking the ocean there. Okay, and then in regards to private urban homes, we have a small atrium of the House of the Meander in Pompeii. You can see the compluvium opening right up down to the impluvium. Another example is the atrium of the House of the Samnite in Herculaneum. Again, clear image of an impluvium. And then an example of dwellings above shops, House of the Trellis in Herculaneum. And you can see the difference, how much the space and sizing. And then this is an example of just a Pompeii street, showing buildings that would have been above shops with way less space.
Honestly, I feel like architecture styles are like a cycle because their houses look kind of similar to modern houses now. And then those shops, like the ones with like the crosses on the side, that just reminds me of like the 1400s.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I think unfortunately we're just not using the same natural resources like they used to, which is less beautiful. If you go into town, even here in Newcastle or in Sydney or Melbourne, seeing the sandstone buildings, beautiful. Yeah. Okay. This next one is leisure activities. So what did the Pompeians and Herculaneums do to enjoy their daily life? Or maybe not daily life, but every now and then. Okay? So the first thing they did is they went to the theatre. That is an image of the Grand Theatre in Pompeii. Now, theatres were public venues where people watched plays and pantomimes or listened to readings, lectures, or concerts. Sorry, that should be a full stop there. There were two theatres in Pompeii, with one seating 5,000 and another seating 1,500. And Herculaneum had one theatre seating 2,500.
sing or
Yeah.
what was their music style then? I want to know.
Like Arizona.
It could have been, it depends on who was in town, I reckon, you know? Yeah. So this is a close-up aerial view. This is from Google Earth of so you can see Teatro Grande or Grand Theatre, okay, and Teatro Piccolo. Hence why the coffee order of Piccolo means little, right? It's a little latte. But you got the small theatre and the Grand Theatre. They're pretty much next to each other, right? And then this is a zoomed out view to see. You can see where it is in regards to the what? Forum. Okay. So you can see where the forum is. So it's really not too far away from the forum. But again, Pompeii's a small town. It's not massive. Okay. Then you have. So well done, Brianna, before when you said the first image was of the amphitheatre. Good job. Now this amphitheatre in Pompeii was capable of seating 20,000 people. Inscriptions. This is when we look at evidence. The amphitheatre is evidence itself, but other evidence is inscriptions and wall paintings. And these identify the types of events offered, such as boxing, wrestling, wild beast shows, and gladiatorial combat. Furthermore, painted signs and graffiti record the names of donors and popular gladiators.
This subject has taught me how to spell graffiti properly.
Okay. That is a close-up of where the amphitheatre is. So it's actually right on the edge of town. And then, zoomed out, you can see. So you've got the Road of Abundance here that connects the forum all the way to the amphitheatre. But it's right near the Sarno Gate. It's right on the edge of town.
Do they still have like the wall?
In parts, yes. Yep. Then the next one, it's part of ancient Roman life, but they were really big on health, staying healthy and staying physically active. And as a result, they have the palaestrae, which is plural, or palaestra, which is the singular. The palaestra with open spaces for exercise and athletic activities. And to sort of show the dedication to this, both Pompeii and Herculaneum had a dedicated large palaestra with a pool and a grassed area. So people could do laps, they could swim, and they could use the grassed area for running or other exercises. Pompeii also had a smaller palaestra near the theatre, and the men's public baths also had a small palaestra. It was common for the men to be doing exercise at the baths and then go through the different kind of bathing rooms as well. And that's an image of the Grand Palaestra in Pompeii. You can kind of see in the back there the indentation where the pool was. You'll see from an aerial view that the pool must have been pretty significant. So the palaestra is right next to the amphitheatre, but you can still see the significant indentation of the pool.
It's a big pool.
It would have been a big pool, yeah. And again, you can see where it is. All right, another leisure activity of the Pompeians, which is kind of in conflict with the exercise, was drinking and gambling. Okay, they were highly popular leisure activities. The popularity of drinking is evident in the number of taverns and bars. There's approximately 150 taverns uncovered in Pompeii. Evidence of gambling is present in images. Sorry, that should be images. I got to fix that. Not majors, images. On mosaics and wall paintings depicting dice games and cockfighting. So, for example, this is actually a wall painting at a bar or a tavern. So the bar on the Via de Mercurio in Pompeii. It's a wall painting of men playing a dice game. Oh. So another example of this is how you can be smarter with sources. This is an example of a tavern called Asalina's Tavern, located on the Road of Abundance, or the Via dell'Abbondanza, which is also covered in election propaganda. So for example, if you were talking about leisure activities and drinking and gambling is a leisure activity, you could mention Asalina's Tavern. But you could also remember Asalina's Tavern if you're talking about political life, talking about elections. Does that kind of make sense? So I'm just going to go through your booklet. I know you don't have it there, but we'll have that. Make sure you jot that down somewhere. Yeah.
Is the little gate thing that's on the doorway, is that been put there since
Yeah,
tourists have come,
that's to stop tourists going in. Yeah, you'd be amazed what tourists think they can access if there's nothing blocking it. If they see an open doorway, they're just going to go in. Yeah,
I once walked into a staff area at Disneyland because they left their gate open.
yeah. Exhibit A right there. Okay, yeah. So jot that down as an example. Write Asalina's Tavern. Can you write it just up here at the top here? Write Asalina's Tavern in brackets Pompeii, and just do 2 strands from it and write evidence of drinking and gambling, evidence of local political life, and then in brackets next to that, election propaganda. So it's got if you look, well, you can find more images of it, but there's a wall that goes further along here, right down this wall. Oops, sorry, right down this wall. There's all of that programmata, all of that election propaganda along that wall. And so that's what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to look at different sources and start thinking about how can we have these cover different aspects of the syllabus in an effective way, being efficient. The next one we have is food and dining. Again, that's a great example of a thermopolia, okay, where they store the hot food in those bowls there and you kind of choose what you want. So, again, it's an image of a carbonized bread, pretty incredible. But our evidence for food and dining comes from carbonized food and remains of human waste, which shows that the people of Pompeii and Herculaneum ate a wide range of fresh food, including fruits, nuts, cereals, pulses, vegetables, eggs, and a variety of seafood, poultry, and meats.
What sort of meats would they have had?
Well, beef, lamb.
Sausage roll?
No, definitely not sausage rolls. But what you find is that the access to meats vary depending on your wealth. The more wealthy you were, the greater variety of meat you had. Okay, it was common that poor.
If you were poor, you had salmonella meat and
Well, it more mean that you'd probably having poultry, chicken, and seafood because that's more accessible. Yeah, the red meat was more, I guess, exotic. So, naturally, diet varied according to wealth and status. The poor ate simple meals of bread, cheese, vegetables, and stews, and these would have been mostly bought from thermopolia, bars. And due to the simple dwellings of the poor, they relied on affordable food from the town. They weren't at home cooking a lot. And so you can see that's where the average person and the poorer people would have eaten from. And then this is an example of, again, this is at the house of Julia Felix. So again, she's someone we're going to look at tomorrow for the house of Julia Felix being a great example of multiple parts of the syllabus being covered. But that's an example of the stone trachylum, tri meaning 3 seats. See the 3 seats there? That is what wealthy people had in their homes where people would dine.
Would
See,
wealthy people still have gone to Thermopolia?
No.
Just
No.
if they were out?
Yeah. So you look at the difference, right? Like you're rocking up to a fast food sort of joint, grabbing really basic food. Yes. The tavern one, Calpona. Yeah. 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 No, the bread definitely. Wait, hang on. So just bread in general preserved, or the carbonite? That's a great idea. Well, there must have been strains of it. I don't think it would have been preserved completely, but the fact that they'd be able to get stuff from human remains means there's aspects of it, fragments of it. Yeah.
I mean, you can get fossilized plants from
Yeah.
the dinosaur.
Yeah. Because they could figure out remember they were looking at the gardens and they had the fossilized cavities and they could tell what kind of plants were in those cavities. Yeah. So in comparison to the poor, wealthier people ate a wide variety of food with more meat and imported delicacies in their diet. Larger houses such as the House of the Veti in Pompeii and the House of the Stag in Herculaneum are examples of large houses equipped with a kitchen for cooking. But then going beyond those private urban homes like the domuses, in the wealthier homes, we're talking like extensive villas, meals were eaten in a triclinum, a dining room, named after the three wide couches where people reclined while eating. And that's a great example of absolute wealth there with the big stone one. That's the one that Mary Beard was trying to get up on top of, yeah? Just talking about the water. Remember the water comes out of the bottom there? The water feature as they're eating. And then we have clothing. This image here. Now, yeah, that kid's not wearing much. But the reason I have this painting up here is because this is a important frieze from the Villa of the House of Mysteries. And it's another source we're going to look at tomorrow that covers almost 8 parts of the syllabus. Okay? And one being clothing. Because this is showing what women were wearing. Okay? So that's an example. It shows you food and dining. It shows you clothing. It shows you a role of women. It shows you even more. It shows you foreign influence, religion. Okay? Yeah. So, exactly. So, in regards to clothing, clothing was an aspect of society that reflected status and wealth. So only the rich could afford luxurious materials such as fine wool, linen, and silk, and only citizens, male citizens, could wear a toga.
Is that like the curtain that's...
It's a heavily draped thing that they have like over their arm, yeah. Now, if we go back here, see this image here, the sleeveless, and then the bit over the top on the woman's head there. Women wore a long sleeveless tunic, and married women wore a stola, another tunic over the top, in a way to show modesty. Women could also wear what's known as a palla, which is a cloak which respectable women wore over their hair outside. And you can literally see it there. That's the palla on the left there, over the woman's head. Okay, and that is the sleeveless one, but you can see the stola over the top of that. Now, they've discovered a range of jewellery which suggests that wealthier women and men paid considerable attention to their appearance. For men, most men wore knee-length tunic belted at the waist, and only citizens were entitled to wear the toga, a large draped garment. The purple stripe on a toga, I remember looking at local political life, and they referred to the aediles and the duoviri having the purple toga strips, right? The purple stripe on a toga indicated a man's status. Yeah, it cost a lot of money. It was extremely expensive to use purple. Yeah, hence why it's used in the Catholic Church for this time period as well. The wider the stripe, the higher the status. I'm going to change that letter. Okay. It's important to note, though, that by the 1st century AD, which is when the eruption happened, these traditions were being relaxed. And so what that meant is that people that were extremely wealthy were able to start wearing the purple, okay, and wearing that. Now, paintings also demonstrate that men who did physical work, such as fullers, wore only a loincloth while working, okay? And so here's some examples. So that is this. Yep, go back. Some good examples. Statue of Marcus Nonius Balbus in Herculaneum, wearing a toga. See how it heavily drapes over his shoulder and his arm? Doesn't look very comfortable.
Where's the rest of his body?
Yep.
Concrete. Is that
Decay. Yep.
Oh, it was covered in that.
And then, sorry for the pixelation here and the bad quality, but again, statue of Eumarchia in Pompeii wearing a stola and a palla. Okay? So that's another good example there. And again, Eumarchia is someone we're going to look at next tomorrow's lesson about being smarter rather than harder with sources. Here's a wall painting showing fullers wearing loincloths. So you can see the lack of clothing there because of the physical nature of the work. They're not going to be wearing knee-length tunic while doing heavy lifting and physical labour. So there we go. And that is, does anyone know who that is? Elazar, very good. Now, in regards to health, this is an interesting one, is that due to the role of cremation in ancient Rome as the common way that they would deal with dead bodies, there wasn't a lot to go off. But the fact of the matter is, the remains uncovered at Pompeii and Herculaneum provided an opportunity to study the health of an ancient population. And the three main researchers in this area are Estelle Laser, Sarah Bissell, and Luigi Capasso. So Estelle Laser is from Australia.
What's after great?
It's opportunity.
Oh, there you go. My apologies. Estella Laser from Australia. She's worked with the bones of 300 disarticulated skeletons from Pompeii. And that's a famous image of her with those disarticulated skeletons. Could you imagine how hard that would be to put that back together? It's a massive work. Sarah Bissell from USA investigated 139 skeletons found on the beachfront. So I think it went near those boat sheds at Herculaneum. And Luigi Capasso from Italy, whose team examined 162 skeletons from Herculaneum. But out of those 162, he also included the 139 studied by Bissell. So he looked at those as well. Okay, ready to keep going? Yep. So what did they discover? So the work of these three researchers suggests that people in Pompeii and Herculaneum were generally well nourished and healthy. They were actually similar in size to the people who live in Naples today, and they lived well into old age. However, they also detected diseases and disorders, and they include that a lot of the citizens or people of Pompeii and Herculaneum had worn down teeth, most likely due to grit in the bread from the millstones. There's evidence of tuberculosis and malaria in some victims. There were also respiratory problems, most likely from breathing in toxins from fires in poorly ventilated rooms. They also discovered arthritis among more males than females. That might be to do with certain kinds of work. And then what's really interesting, and I don't know why, but they discovered HFI, which is hypostosis frontalis interna, among 11.9% of females in Pompeii, which is quite a significant stat. This condition is associated with obesity, diabetes, and headaches among older women. So that's interesting. That might be to do with certain consumption of something, certain food. I don't know. But that's what those three researchers and academics discovered. All right. And then this one, which is very, very common, a normal part of everyday life for people in Pompeii and Herculaneum. We've learnt, though, that the water wasn't very healthy. But anyway, baths.
Would they have been more like a pool?
The space would have been bigger than a bath, like a domestic bath. Yeah. Now, as bathing was an important aspect of Roman life, baths were a common feature for life in Pompeii. The baths were a sociable place where people bathed, they socialised, they exercised, and they received massages. A whole range of things. And these were the key features of a bath, a Roman bath. They had the apoditerium, which is the change room, the caldarium, the hot bath, the tepidarium. You know when someone says the water's getting tepid? Yeah, it's not hot, but it's not cold. So the tepidarium was the warm bath or steam room. And the frigidarium, frigid, cold bath or plunge pool. Now, what's incredible engineering is the baths also used what they call a hypocaust an underfloor heating system which circulated hot air to heat floors and walls and heated the water carried by pipes to the baths. Pretty incredible.
Why were they so high
Yeah, they did some pretty incredible engineering. Yeah. And that's an image. So this is an image from the suburban baths in Herculaneum, which is the best preserved bath out of Herculaneum, Pompeii and Herculaneum. And it's a really grand one. So you can imagine that there being filled, that being filled with water. You might be like washing your face with that. It's a nice bird bath, big one. So this is plans of the forum baths in Pompeii. Okay, you don't need to annotate this one because they're already pretty much labelled there. But you can already see the discrepancy between men and women here, in the sense that the women's bath is just here. This is the men's bath.
What are all the like rooms on the side?
So they would be shop fronts, right? Or dwellings. So you got 3 entrances for the men's, one here, and then one down here. And so you go in, you got the dressing room here, cold room here, tepid room here, hot room there. And you can see that looks almost like a peristyle, like it's a roof sort of space there too. For the women, same thing, walk in, cold room here, dressing room, tepid room, hot room. Okay, and this is accessible to all. Anyone can go in there. So, in regards to Pompeii and Herculaneum, this is what it looked like. Pompeii had 4 public baths. The Stabian baths, the Forum baths, the Central baths. They also had their amphitheatre baths, but they are unexcavated, so they don't really know much about them.
How do they know that they're them?
From writings. Yeah. There's enough information that it's there, but they haven't excavated it.
Why don't they excavate it?
Not entirely sure. Now, there was also, in addition to public baths, there's also a privately run bath of Julia Felix. There you go. Julia Felix pops up again. Okay? So she had some serious sway in this town. Now, provisions were made for women to use the Stabian and Forum baths in Pompeii. And what's really interesting is that more than 1,000 oil lamps were found at the Stabian baths, which suggests that they were open at night. Now, on the other hand, in Herculaneum, 2 baths have been uncovered. The Forum baths, which were part of the Palaestra, and the private suburban baths dedicated to Marcus Nonius Balbus.
Why do they have a forum baths when there's no forum?
They haven't uncovered the Forum, but it is highly unlikely it's highly likely a Forum's there. Yeah. The Forum baths had a separate and smaller women's section, and the suburban baths, which is the image back here, that one there. The suburban baths were luxurious, with large windows that faced the sea. Do you need a new one?
No, it's okay.
Let me check. I reckon I've got a pastel pink highlighter here. And so, looking at the map of Pompeii, this is where they sort of are separated from, like in regards. You can see the Forum baths is quite close to the Forum. Suburban baths is out, I guess, in the suburbs. And the Stadium baths is there. They're all pretty close to each other, not too far. And then the amphitheatre baths would naturally be where the amphitheatre is, which is on the other side of town. Okay. Then we have water supply. We're nearly there, guys. We're doing really well. Both Pompeii and Herculaneum were connected to branches of the imperial aqueduct, which carried water from the Apennine Mountains.
Something and it was like a bubble.
Well, they're in Rome. Yeah, but they're really cool designs. Now, remains of aqueducts, water towers, pipes, fountains, and drains offer ample evidence of the public water supply. Furthermore, the remains of impluvia and compluvia, or impluviums and compluviums, leading water to cisterns. So cisterns were essentially like tanks that held water, evidence of private water supply. And that image there on the screen is a public water fountain in Pompeii. I just realised your worksheet has been a bit mucked around here.
I just drew a line.
Yeah, that's all right. But that image there, called the Castellum Aqua in Pompeii, is they would build that at the highest point of the town, and that's where the water would get stored. And we're going to talk through that in a moment. And then from that point, it would get sent down to 14 different water towers across Pompeii, which then would feed into the public water supply. So, if we look at Pompeii, water from the aqueduct was stored in a brick reservoir known as the Castellum Aqua, which is this thing here. This water was then channeled to 14 secondary water towers. So there's that's the Castellum Aqua in Pompeii, and that's what the water towers look like.
How'd they get there?
They
How'd the
built
water get there?
gravity. Build this at the highest point, run it down. Yeah. Lead pipes carried water from the towers to public fountains, baths, and latrines. And some private houses were actually connected to the public water supply.
What are latrines again?
Latrines are toilets. Yeah. Other houses collected rainwater from the roof through the compluvium and stored it in cisterns beneath the floor. Got a feeling maybe that would be cleaner water than the lead pipe water.
Maybe.
Now, similar to Pompeii, Herculaneum also used the aqueduct, but their Castellum Aqua has not been uncovered. They've uncovered remains of the pipes and stuff, but they haven't actually discovered where it was stored originally. But in Herculaneum, unlike
They looked at the highest point in town.
no, because it's underneath the town. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, Brianna, that would be the place you would look, the highest point of the town. Yes, very good. You know what? I reckon some of the archaeologists probably have come up with the same idea. Yeah. Unlike Pompeii, though, Herculaneum did have an earlier system of ground wells that were still in use. And so some houses were connected to the public water supply, while others accessed private wells. And so, yeah, that's the example of the Castellum Aqua in Pompeii. And then that's an example of one of the 14 water towers in Pompeii. All right, last one. Sanitation. What are those big stepping stones for? Yeah, so your feet are staying clean when there are human waste flowing, literally flowing through the street. At times. Okay? So, occasionally. Pompeii and Herculaneum had sanitation systems disposing of stormwater and human waste. Both had, this is not an image from Pompeii, it's actually another Roman settlement, but it's just to give you an idea of what it looked like. Both towns had large communal public toilets as well as private toilets in some households. So this would have been seen as a pretty communal and public social place. You would sit down there and do your business and have a chat. Bless you. Now, toilets were flushed by water, and then water was used to wash the sponges that were used instead of toilet paper.
Wow. Histories.
Yeah.
It's like those people that use like scissors and toilet paper.
Yeah.
Get scratched by the stick.
Yeah.
Because the sponge fell off.
Yeah. Yeah. Sponge on the end of a stick. Exactly right.
Where did they get sponge from? Oh, they do live in
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, this
But the sponge could also just be some like leftover cloth they could use. Like it could be anything. Yeah. Yep. So this is what that looks like in the towns. In Pompeii, toilets were connected by pipes to cesspits.
Oh.
Okay, where liquids soaked into the ground and solids remained. Some archaeologists believe that those solids that remained were collected and used for fertilizer in gardens.
That happened to me when I was camping.
Okay.
We did it, bro. No, I was camping and you had to like go and use their drop toilet, and then she would take the bin out where it all went, and she went and used it in her garden.
And then you ate the dinner. Yeah.
Oh, I paid.
Now,
So I brought my own sandwiches.
yeah. So, wastewater flowed through the streets toward lower ground outside the walls. Paved roads, deep stone gutters, and stepping stones help pedestrians to cross streets without getting their feet wet. Sewers drained the forum, and places that used a lot of water, such as the bars and the large palæstra. They had drains there because they wanted to keep any kind of wastewater away from there. Are you?
Yeah, other houses something rainwater from the roof and stored it in cisterns beneath the floor.
Oh, have I given you the wrong? Oh, sorry, I've stuffed that one up. Have I?
Is there another slide?
No, just cross that one out. That one's from the previous table. Yeah. Because when I was making the worksheet, I would copy that table and then edit it. Okay, cross that one out. My apologies. Now, unlike Pompeii, Herculaneum, maybe it's due to its greater, I guess, slope. It wasn't higher up, but it was on more of a slope being close to the ocean. They had more of an effective system of drains and sewers that ran beneath the streets, carrying away wastewater and sewage. Streets were well drained and there was no need for stepping stones, which is nice. That's nice. They had chutes from household kitchens and toilets, as well as public toilets and facilities that emptied into the sewer. Rather than emptying into the sea, the sewer acted like a huge septic tank holding the waste. So do you remember when you saw Mary Beard and Wallace Hadrill climb down into that cesspit in Herculaneum? That would have been the sewer. Because you remember it was massive. They see how high the wall was, and it was covered in the brown. Yeah, yeah. So what's really interesting is that they think that that sewer would have had to been emptied at times. And again, similar to Pompeii, you would have found the liquids would have soaked into the sewer. Sorry. And they think that the most common theory from archaeologists is that slaves would have gone in at times and emptied the sewer. And they would have used the remaining human waste for possibly fertilizer and other things. Yeah. Hopefully on like gardens that just had flowers, maybe not produce they were growing to eat. And this is the same thing that Wallace Hadrill was really excited about when he was talking to Mary Beard. Excavation of the sediment from the sewer has produced more than 170 crates of finds and provided valuable information about human diet. Interesting. So here, and then you can see on your booklet, that's an example of, a private toilet underneath the stairs in Herculaneum. Okay, there's some references of sources I used. There we go.